Alrighty. So when it comes to both of you guys' use cases, when we're thinking about habits and building habits and keeping resolutions and keeping people consistent with what they said they would do, it's really easy when you have a streamlined process that's already set in place. Both of you have a fairly streamlined process already set in place for your users, so it's going to be easy to make that transition. Let's go ahead and get started. So, today we're talking about keeping New Year's resolutions and why they are difficult to maintain, difficult to establish, easier to maintain once it's established, and how that all relates back to what a habit loop is. And that's really what keeping a resolution and keeping a commitment to yourself really is. And how can we build that sort of commitment system into your app? So today we're going to talk about habits, but before we get started, we'll take a look at the newest version of the platform, which is 6.9.10, which should be released fairly soon. It should have been on test flight for you guys. And then we're going to talk about habit loops, what are the main components of it, and why are we creatures of habit, taking a look at how can we establish these habits, these new habits, and how can we alter an existing habit. So not establishing a new habit, but kind of switching one that already is ingrained within us. We're going to take a look at some examples of apps that have habits and how they're ingrained into the user's behavior. And then finally, some ideas and some ways to work in habits into your app. So some of the things that are new with 6.9.10, there's a few things on the admin. There's two things within the admin. The one is if you're looking at the branding section of your admin right here, whenever you have an alteration to any of your content, you are always welcome to save it and edit at will before you let us know. So once you're fully comfortable with an alteration that you want to see sent to the App Store, you can go ahead and hit the request App Store update. So that's going to send an email to our support team for us to review it and let you know if there's anything that we think might be rejected by Apple, anything that they might not like, and we'll help you adjust that before we send it to our developers to send to Apple and Google. So whenever it's finally approved, then it would be sent in with the next version update. So those are every 6 weeks. And then the next thing that's new is we have a little chat button down here, which you can always start a new chat. We will try to be very consistent with answering those chats, but you can also quickly search for a help article. So if you wanted to learn more about events or something, you could take a look at all of the articles we had very quickly and then find one that suits your needs. We also have, you can find the support help articles here. You can schedule a meeting quickly from here and then submit any feedback here.
Miranda, I just want to make sure I don't see your screen right now. Is it supposed to be shared?
Yes, sorry, I'm dual sharing. I set up the one video, so let me share my screen. Thank you for that.
No problem. I wasn't sure before, but yeah.
Okay, let me show you again. Can you see my screen now? Okay, perfect. Okay, so here's that request App Store update. So you can always save changes that you've created, but once you want to submit an update, just press that button and we'll be in contact with you. And then down here is the way to quickly ask us questions. So you can search here and then quickly get to the help article that you're looking for, or go ahead and ask us a question. Okay. And here's the actual presentation that you did not see. Okay, so the next thing is for our home screen, we have a couple of edits. So you can now have short goals on a block that's pretty short. So instead of having, goals that are stacked, like one large one and two small ones underneath, you can now have just like ones that you can swipe through this way. That way more goals can show up. We have an upcoming event block. So if you had, if you have frequent events and you want to make sure that people are seeing those, you can add that to the home screen. And then if you wanted to have a button that links to maybe a specific goal, or if you just wanted to remind them, hey, this is where you can find your goals, you can also do that. Within our activities, so our events, locations, and actions, your users now have the ability to copy the text of that action or event or location, or share that action, event, or location. So this will share the details of when the event is happening and all that information. This was particularly useful for a couple of our customers like Read by Fourth that wants people to share the literature and the information that's within an action. And then Jersey Cares wants to share the list of different things that a person would need to purchase for their elderly person that they're getting groceries for. Let's see. Categories. So if you had recurring events and you said that they should rest within a specific category, it used to have all of those iterations of the event in a big long list inside your category. We've shortened that to just one iteration. So the next upcoming iteration of that will be the one that you can see. That way there's not like a list of 20 events that are in there that are all the same name and everything. And then finally, if you had a survey that had more than one image question, so for each image question, you can only upload one image, but we were finding difficulty if you had two image questions. So let's say you had, take a picture of X and then take a picture of Y. It would only really be able to process one picture within the survey. So we fixed that. You can have as many image questions as you want. You can delete a scheduled push notification. And then we saw an issue inside the admin if you went back to a place that you created. The state, if you clicked it and opened it up, the state would disappear. You would just have to re-enter that before you saved it. But we worked that out as well. So the next branding, if you want to change your branding, the next one is due Tuesday, January 28th. But for any new customers, if you're not launched yet, just let us know. Okay, so the information inside that we're going to be talking about is really focused on habit loops, and most of the content at the beginning is coming out of the book, The Power of Habit. So there's an abbreviated version that you guys can go ahead and look at if you would like. So just letting you know, the first half is giving examples from the book. All right. So habit loops. When someone makes a commitment and says, I want to work out, or I want to volunteer, or I want to learn a certain thing, they need to create a habit loop out of that behavior. And habits are everywhere ingrained inside us already. So if you eat food at a specific time of day, if you take a break at a specific time of day, all those things are habits that you've created for yourself. There's always going to be a cue for your habit, and that could be a location, time, a feeling, other people. It could be, or something inside your, something that happens, like a push notification is sent and that tells you, oh, I need to do that, or volunteering right after you volunteer. So that cue triggers a kind of craving, a desire to fulfill whatever behavior you need to do, whatever the routine is. So, if some people that have social media habits, they'll be bored, they'll be sitting around, and then they'll not have anything to do, which automatically triggers them to pick up their phone. And the craving now is, they take a look at all the different apps that they have. They're like, which app should I pick? And so they are kind of pushed towards Instagram or Facebook or something like that. So it kind of is that craving inside you, and then the response is to open up that app, scroll, and do whatever behavior, and then feel good. So the routine is specific to the user scenario, and the reward is that feeling of achievement or good feeling. With social media habits, the reward is short term. When we're talking about education, it's going to be a longer term reward. So that's why it's harder to create those habits. So when we talk about habits, it's all about the feeling, the dopamine release that we get once we've done that behavior. I actually want to ask a question. Do you guys have any examples of habits inside your life?
So I'm pretty careful about how I use social media. So this one isn't super relevant to that. But I really, really love my bedtime routine. So when I I'm getting tired or kind of just feeling worn out from the day, I love washing my face and brushing my teeth and flossing, and I feel really cleansed and ready to end the day. So that's what comes to mind for me.
I was going to say mine's more at the beginning of the day. I have to have a cup of coffee to be productive. And so I've definitely associated those two together. So if I have a cup of coffee, I'm ready to start my work day.
And it's so easy to, forget about that habit because it's so ingrained into your life. That's what you do every day. It's a habit. It's not something, it sounds like those have been something that's been in your life for a very long time, and it's not going to change. So when we're thinking about establishing new habits, we're going to take a look at Julio. He's a monkey, and basically the scientists sat him down and they showed him a bunch of different shapes. And when he had a specific shape, then if he pulled the lever, he'd get I think there's some sweet, sugary blackberry juice. And so, this was a new habit for him. So as he did this routine, he saw the cue, had the routine, pulled the lever, got his reward. At the beginning, he felt the dopamine release right when he received the juice. So when a habit is new, it's right at the end when you get the reward that you feel like this gratification. But as time goes on, as that habit becomes something that's a true habit that's ingrained into your life and into your brain, you're going to start getting that reward, that dopamine release, a little bit earlier. So, Julio here is actually getting the dopamine release now, right after he's seen the shape on the screen. So he starts getting excited. So I'm sure right as you're getting tired, Marika, you kind of get excited. You start your routine, and that's when you feel good. It's that beginning portion. So when it comes to habits, it's really hard to create new habits. It's a little bit easier to change an existing habit. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that. So this example is about changing an existing habit. And this is actually very difficult. It's difficult to quit drinking. This example is about AA and alcoholics. But what makes it so successful, AA, is that it's changing what the routine is within the habit loop that an alcoholic already has. So, these are people that have some desire, and it's actually not to drink necessarily. Most alcoholics will tell you that they drink because they want to escape or to relax or to find companions, or to suppress some anxieties. So all of those things can be solved by a different routine. So their original routine is to drink, but AA replaces that routine with going to meetings. So they're getting the same cue, which is, oh, I need to drink. But the routine is different. They're going to the meetings. And then the reward is the same. They feel good. So they definitely have there's mindset that you have to change, and you have to, write down how you're going to, if you fall off, what are you going to do, and how are you going to make sure that you establish, stay to that routine. But it is a lot easier to replace rather than create a new one. And you guys, let me know if you have any questions. Just go ahead and just speak up. Okay, so it's a lot harder to establish a new habit. So back when people didn't brush their teeth a lot, they were trying to figure out how, this was an organization that wanted to make money and they wanted to sell toothpaste. But how do we get people to use toothpaste? So they hired this man called Hopkins, and he did a lot of research. If you're creating a new habit, you have to do a lot of research to figure out what the right cue is. How do you make it something that people go back to over and over and over again? So he started researching about teeth and all the different components of it. And he figured out that there's this film that covers your teeth, which is very natural. But it's something, that cue, and that's his cue, is a film that you feel on your teeth. So their ads were focused on if you take your tongue and you run it over the top of your teeth like this, and if you feel a film, you should brush your teeth. And so that habit, the way that they presented it and the way that they created it into a habit to brush your teeth, made them wildly profitable. And of course, then you have where toothpaste is today, is a part of everybody's routine. So Hopkins really created that craving that really stuck in a lot of people's minds. So he had a firm knowledge of how, what was the cue and what was the reward, and making sure that everything in between was very easy for the individual to do. So as we know, apps are a great place to establish habits. And there's a lot of different types of apps out there, of course. And we're going to take a look at a few different examples and different types of habits that these apps have set in place in people's minds. So the very first one is Cronometer. This is one that I use, and of course I use all the ones inside this presentation because I do. So Cronometer is for tracking your food intake, and you can. There's lots of different apps that are out there on the market, but it's again we're talking about tracking, a tracking habit. So the cue might be that they ate something, or they're thinking about eating something, or they worked out. So they automatically pull open the app because they've had that thought, that cue, and then they track, they log that food, they log that activity, and then they get that reward of, being able to visualize all of the food that they've taken into their body and know how many calories they've had. So let's go ahead and take a look at their app. So I can zoom in just a little bit. So notice how all of these apps are staying very consistent, and they're letting you know what that habit is. They're really telling you, hey, this is for tracking. You're tracking your calories, and you're going to add it into you're going to log your meals very quickly. So it's all around like telling them what is the cue, what is the routine that you're going to be doing, and then what is that reward? You're getting that accurate data. And if you read, their description, it all, again, stems from what is that habit that they're trying to set in place within you. And they're just staying consistent the whole time, trying to affirm that habit. Okay. So the second one is a social habit. And we all know that Facebook is a very addicting place, and it's very intentional as well. Facebook, Instagram, all of those different places. Now, I've tried to reduce this habit in my life. I've actually replaced this habit within my life. Not just Facebook, but I was using Reddit a lot. And that's, I want to feel comfortable telling you guys that. So I replaced that habit because my habit was, I'm feeling bored. And so I had a spare moment and I'd open up my phone. What do I go to? And this is exactly what you guys are going to be working on too. I think yours are a little bit different. It's not a social habit that you're trying to set in place. Emily, you guys are trying to set that tracking habit in place. And Marika, you guys are trying to set that learning habit in place. But for a social habit, or for, wasting time, if you have a spare moment, what do you do? So I've replaced my Facebook habit and with reading. So I'll open up my phone and I'll pick my Libby app instead. But, there's different reasons that people are going to Facebook. What is the cue? They have a spare moment, like I was saying, or they want to, see what their friends are up to, or they want to share themselves. So there's specific cues for them to open up the app. And then the behavior is to scroll or to post, and then they get that reward of feeling connected. And again, they're being very clear, showing you how you can scroll, you can view other people, get involved with your groups. They've gotten a lot of, they've been expanding because the core habit is something that's already ingrained into people's minds. They can expand out into separate areas. So now they have their watch section apparently. But again, it's going to stay very consistent about, this is for connecting with friends. That's the main purpose of the app. That's the main habit. Okay, and then two more. So a learning habit. There's an app that I have on my phone that I downloaded because I wanted to learn more about stocks. There are a ton of people that download this app to learn about stocks, and the cue is having a spare moment, and I've already finished the app. Having a spare moment, or you could be replacing again a current habit loop that you have. So having a spare moment, the desire to use social media, or the desire to invest in stocks. And then the behavior, instead of going to Facebook or one of those apps, you would go to this app. So they've replaced some people's habits. So you can listen or read all the different information about stocks. And then the reward is you've learned something. You've learned about the stock market. And for some reason, it keeps doing this to me. It did that yesterday. There we go. Okay, so here is their app, A Beginner's Guide to Investing, clear. And they're saying, in this app, you're going to learn how to invest in the stock market. So they, walk you through why you should invest. And then they get further and further in their scaffolding, all of the education, all of the components that you're supposed to be learning about. And again, they're keeping it very clear. You get lessons, easy to follow design, lessons, audio, learn to invest. Last one is a resource-heavy app. So IMDb is one that a lot of people have heard of. It's a very popular app for tracking movies and TV shows and actors. So the cue is, you're either watching a movie and you want to do your research. My mom wants to do that. You're thinking about picking a movie to watch. So you open up the app, or maybe you're thinking about a specific actor and you want to learn more about them and see other movies that they're in. Those are all some of the cues, and then the behavior is to go into the app and search for whatever that was. The reward is now you get to save it and come back to it at a later time. Okay, so very clear tickets, trailers, and ratings. So this is your go-to place for everything movies and TV and actors. And make that clear. Okay, can you guys, can I ask you a question? Can you guys think of any apps that you use and what habit it has in your life?
I am a big fan of OneNote, I think, if that's it. Yeah, on where I have like checklists on my phone. And so I can have that both on my laptop, on my Gmail, and then as well on my phone that I can just always have for groceries or to-do list and check off as I go.
Nice. So what is the cue for you?
To get things done, like productivity.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
First one that comes to mind for me is my email.
Yeah.
That I'm often like looking at two screens at once. And the cue with that is, I mean, it can be a couple different things, but often it's a notification.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people have, an email addiction as well, in like a good way, because that's, the world that we live in now. But it's how often do you check it, and it's like, what is the consistency, and it's definitely a habit. Okay, so how do we take all of this information and start integrating it into the way that your app is functioning? So one of the core ways that you can improve your app is to be very clear and very consistent. What are the core things that someone should be doing inside your app? And are we saying that over and over and over again throughout the whole user experience, from the very first time they hear about your app to looking at it inside the app store to once they download it, they see those welcome screens and that reaffirms it as they scroll through them. When they look at your home screen, can they easily complete those habits, those behaviors? And then are you getting them involved and making sure that they know, again, reinforcing in their very first goal, saying like, hey, again, this is what you're supposed to be doing inside this app. And the second thing is to make sure that you're getting your users involved. When it comes to the framework for establishing a habit, you have to identify what is the routine, and then experiment with what are the different rewards that you would, give yourself or give a user. And you have to isolate the cue. So again, when is someone going to use your app? And for Students Care, it's very clear. You get done volunteering and then you immediately pick up the app. The cue is so clear that it's hard to ignore. Now, Marika, you guys will have to do a little bit more experimenting about when in a student's day are they thinking about using your app? What is that cue? And a really good one is push notifications and those kinds of things. But, thinking about the framework, you have to make sure that not only are you telling the person, being very clear, but that it's ingrained inside them and they start to feel, the desire to make this a part of their life. So if you're creating a habit for yourself, you need to go through this framework. And the last part is to have a plan. And a plan means you're writing down when you're going to be using the app, how you're going to be using the app, and again, just reaffirming it. So they found that they did this study, and they followed patients who got hip or knee surgery, and they gave them their normal pamphlet at the end to half of the patients, and then to the other half of patients, they gave them these pamphlets at the back of the book, these little handouts that said at the top, "What is your goal?" And then it had them fill it in, and it said like, be very specific, like, what is your goal for the first week? And if there's a barrier, what are those barriers? Tell me every single barrier that you could have. And what would you do to make sure that you overcome that barrier? So for these people that had hip or knee surgery, they had one individual who wrote down, "I'm going to go pick up my wife from the bus stop. So every day after she gets finished with work, I'm going to go greet her." And it's excruciating to start walking after you've had these kinds of surgeries. The reason you have to start walking is because there's tissue that's starting to form inside your joints, and you need to walk through the pain. So he wrote down, "If it's cold, I'll get my hat. If it's raining, I'll bring an umbrella." And he wrote down every single excuse he would have and made a plan for it. So you need to help your users create that plan as well. You need to bring value. If your app is focused on, being a resource for individuals, you have to have tons of content. You have to have valuable content. It has to be worth it. If you're going to be IMDb, which we're not going to be IMDb, but if you were IMDb, you'd have every single TV show and every single movie and every single actor, and have a nice blurb about every single one of them. So whatever it is, whatever resources you're trying to give to a user, make sure that it's comprehensive. The second one is to start scaffolding the learning experience. If it's a learning experience, try to scaffold it. And scaffolding is an educational term that basically means that you're building on someone's knowledge and you're letting them become more and more independent over time. So if you think about it grade by grade, and Marika, I'm sure you guys know so much about this at Mighty Writers, to basically build different, different foundational information over top of each other. So they're learning different techniques and they're progressing over time. So continuing with bringing value, if you're thinking about using your app as a social community space, you're going to really have to acknowledge that there will be lurkers. There will be people who log into your app and kind of scroll through it, see what's going on, and then they probably will never post. A majority of users on the web are these lurkers. It's about 90%. And, you want to get people to start contributing, to start becoming part of this top 10%. And that, the apps that you guys are building have that community feeling. So people are already going to start feeling safe. So the more that you can make them feel safe and that they're not putting themselves on the line as much, that's when you get conversion from lurkers to actual contributors. So it's kind of like starting a dance party. Have you guys ever heard of that video? Does that anything come to mind? No? Okay. So it's a really...
I'm not sure I'm familiar with it.
Okay. So this is a very old video. And you have this guy. He's on his own. He's just dancing. It's a really bad video. but he's just dancing by himself. And then you have his first follower who starts dancing with him, and they're looking kind of strange. You have all your lurkers who are there, not participating. They acknowledge that this is happening. They have not decided to stand up. Then you have your third guy. And from there, it just keeps growing. And that's really what it's going to be like inside your app, is you have to be that person who's dancing on their own. And you're going to have to get your team members to start dancing with you, and then everyone will start dancing. And again, if this is, if you want to have a social app, that's what you have to do. And it's going to keep growing and growing after that, because people are going to start seeing how great it is to participate. So I saw that video a very long time ago, and it just was so funny. It's a very old one. So, things to take away from that video is be the leader. Get up there and start posting yourself, start adding comments, start, socializing with people, sending them chats, and don't give up. Keep going. It took about a minute of the video for anyone to join that guy out there dancing. And then they were by themselves for a long time. And, it's that second person that really makes a difference. But then you get to the third, and that's when you start to grow. And you have to, at that point, you're going to start growing exponentially in the amount of participation. And that's when you have to start, keeping track of what people are saying. And that's where the success really is that growth. So keep being persistent. Another, way to increase habits are to utilize the new home screen blocks. So if you do have upcoming events, we highly encourage you to use this new home screen block for upcoming events. It looks similar to this. Make sure that you're on the newest version, which is 6.9.10, so that this will actually be available on your home screen. Another one is to make sure that people are focused by giving them goals and making those goals very apparent. So this is our new short goals block, and you can scroll through both of these. You can scroll from left to right and just keep swiping through them, or view all the goals or the whole calendar. And then one of the last new blocks, which should be fairly available, it was a couple of iterations ago, are categories. So now you can have your categories on your home screen. The second thing is to encourage, or I think it's the third, to encourage your users to share the app. One of the biggest ways that you could, get people to share is to make sure that you have language inside your admin that you have to type up that makes this widget right here pop up inside the More section of your app. So it gives people a quick way to share about your app, and they can go ahead and send it to whomever they want, Facebook or some other place or a specific person. So you would go into the admin and then community and then app sharing. And let me just show you guys. So we are going to community. I'm going to wait a moment for this to load. Okay. And then it's this app sharing down here. So obviously you'd have real text right there, but this is, gives people a quick way to share your app. So this is something you guys can immediately implement once you get off this call. The second one is to implement push notifications. Always send them out. Don't send them out every day, but send them out once a week or maybe twice a week, and make them fun and exciting. Be there for them. Give them that cue. The last one is we are working through all of our customers and coming to you guys and asking if we can build you a landing page. So this will help with downloads and, again, being consistent over time about how your app should be used. So go ahead and contact sales if they have not contacted you already, and they can start creating that with you. Okay, so some takeaways for today is to start writing down a list of behaviors that people should be able to complete inside your app. Making sure, it's consistent throughout the whole app. And then, again, find that specific habit. What is the bread and butter? What is that core behavior that someone would come into your app for? Make sure that is the clearest part throughout your whole entire app in language. And it's going to take time. If there isn't a clear-cut cue, it'll take time to figure that out. Try to start, identify the routine, but you're going to have to start experimenting with rewards and isolating the cue. So I encourage you guys to go read that article. That's an abbreviation of the book for a little bit more information and guidance. Last one is to, again, build engaging programming, to write everything down and create things that add value to your app. And, once your app is live, make sure that you're maintaining it. Make sure that you're a part of the community, that you're that one person dancing on their own for a little bit. And I'm sure you will have tons of users that start coming together, because they see how much care you put into the app. Okay, so thank you guys for coming. If I do want to leave with one last question. Now that you guys have had the time to be here, what is your habit loop? What is that main thing that you're trying to establish within your app? So tell us what you think the cue is, the routine, and the reward.
I would say that for us, the habit loop would be logging hours and probably just learning additional resources. We have a lot of resources in the app for our volunteers to have a more full circle knowledge on the populations they serve. So probably finishing a volunteer shift, having the queue, they know they need to log their hours, go to our app, log their hours. And then a few weeks ago, created a goal in our app that they should be logging, like if they log their hours every week, they should have at least 4 hours a month. So something like that, and that's displayed on the home screen right now.
That's awesome. What do you think, Marika?
So I think that, you probably know this, I think we have some work to do in terms of really identifying 2 to 3 main functions of what we're trying to do with the app. But one of them is definitely going to be making sure people are clear on what they can sign up for through the app, and making sure they know to go and find out what the different opportunities are, and making them as intuitive and as accessible as possible through the app. So the cue, would be some desire to sign a kid up for one of our programs, and then hopefully just a really intuitive sign up process, and we hope that would feel rewarding for them. So I think, we're interested in a couple different functions, so that's probably our main one.
Cool. And it's going to take time, start writing it down, start thinking about it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much for coming. Do you guys have any questions or anything that you want to talk about?
No, I just want to say thank you. You did a great job, Marina.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, that's really interesting and helpful. Thank you so much.
Bye, ladies.
Yeah.